Today's presenter is Mr. Joseph Hall. Joe's been flying powered paragliders for more than 8 years, and he's been a United States Powered Paragliding Association flight instructor for in excess of 4 years. Joe has worked with more than 100 students in pursuit of their personal flight. Joe trained in California and Kansas with U.S. Powered Paragliding co-founders Phil Russman, Chet Bistain, and Francisco DeSantis. Joe's the owner of AirX PPG, and they're located in Donegal Springs Air Park. That's November 71, and that's in Pennsylvania. Joe is serving his 4th year with us, FAA safety team. He's a Wings IT specialist and representative. Joe's a GA liaison for the U.S. Powered Paragliding Association and the FAA. Sponsorship into the FAST team was via John Seibolt, and I have to shout out to John, who's on with us tonight, I believe. Thanks, John. Previous to his enthusiastic pursuit of the sport of experimental flight, Joe fulfilled decades of service as a senior corporate executive in the healthcare and IT sectors. Joe is knowledgeable in the Wings program, happy to help with any questions you might be having with that program, and we are happy to have Joe with us tonight. So, Joe, if you want to go ahead.
Okay. Do we have
presentation over to you? I'm going to stop sharing.
Cool. Do we have audio going? Are we good?
You're good on audio, and if you'd like to share your screen.
Okay, I will. I just wanted to turn my camera on for a minute and say hello to everyone. Thank you for joining us. And just that I consider it sincerely an honor and a privilege to be presenting to this group here tonight. Really, it's a privilege. So thank you very much. I will try to keep it entertaining and keep it moving along. So let me go ahead and stop this, go into screen sharing and get this presentation rolling. So share screen. We're going to go to this guy right here and share. Okay, and do you have the screen?
We have your screen if you want to go in presenter mode.
Okay, so
looks perfect.
All right, good. So we already saw the bio info. Now we're going to go into our presentation. Welcome to Powered Paragliding Overview. I'm your host, Joe Hall. And I wanted to tell a little story as we intro the presentation. I wanted to tell you guys that I first moved here to Pennsylvania from California probably about 6 years ago. And I showed up with this on the back of my truck over here in the right frame, right panel. And I looked a lot like this guy right here. This is my buddy Craig, one of my students. You know, as you can see, for the fixed wing folks, that this is really different. This is very different than what we are accustomed to. So sitting out at the parking lot at the private airport at Keller Brothers, I was confronted by an old pilot, like in his 80s, and he asked me, "Do you think you're going to fly this here? You don't think you're going to fly this here, do you?" And I explained, "No, I'm just looking." And ultimately that led to my meeting the owner of the airport and Dan Keller Brothers Airfield. And Dan just gently told me, "Go talk to John Seibel. He's in this hangar over here. Go meet John." And that's all he said. He said, "You're okay to fly here. Meet John, talk to John." And John introduced me to the FAST team and the FAST team charter, if you will. And that really resonated with me. And so that's what laid the groundwork for us to be here today. Again, I've been working with the FAST team for the last 4 years. We have some collateral that we've developed for the FAA, spatial disorientation, stuff like that. We have some videos that we've done with them. But today we're talking about paramotors. So we're going to do a brief history of the paramotors. We're going to talk about training and basic operational protocols. You know, a big item in ultralight is weather considerations, right? What weather considerations, conditions can we fly in? When can we fly? When do we have to stay on the ground? We'll talk about various safety considerations, the path to engagement, and we'll have a Q&A session after that. Picture on the right here is taken over the Susquehanna here last fall. Again, with the paramotors, with no canopy and no plastic or glass in front of us, we get these unbelievable views of the surface. Okay, so where and when did it originate? So I love these old drawings over time that show the how flight was envisioned early on. And so we have these first couple of illustrations that I'm sure everyone is familiar with, but maybe you're not familiar with these postcards that were chartered in the late 1800s in France. And the charter for the artist was, show us in the land 2000, what will things look like 100 years from now? So these artists developed a set of postcards. You can look them up online in on 2000, and they were never distributed. They went into cigar boxes. So I found these a few years ago, and I thought, my goodness, that really shows what where the imaginations have evolved over the last several hundred years. But bringing it current, okay, paramotoring has evolved from paragliding in the early 80s. It came out of England, and we had a three-cylinder coning, I believe is how that's pronounced, almost 100 pounds with a generous 5-minute flight time. And again, they were using parachutes that were adapted, or gliders that were adapted to paramotors. So it was really dangerous. The gliders were heavy, poorly designed. And as you can see from our picture here on the right, this gentleman, I mean, he is just like all up in terms of gear. He's probably got a third of his body weight in gear. So if we look to today, so we go from the 1980s to the new millennium. So now you see we go from a very cumbersome, heavy system that takes literally a strong human being. I hesitate to say a strong man, but a strong human being to carry this. And we translate it into a backpack system that Anais is one of our recent graduates. Anais is flying her system is an 80cc system. And I believe her dry weight on that system is right around 43 pounds. So, add fuel to it, and she's still under 50. And in a nutshell, this is what your setup looks like on the runway. The glider will be, just out of the photograph, but it's basically, a metal or a carbon frame. The circle that goes around is a hoop. The spars attached to the edges of the hoop makes the netting all secure and rigid. And we have a harness that we sit in. So talking about how we get into the sport, the progression of training, I'm going to answer a question that I know is going to be asked, and that is training required? And with the 103 aviation, training is not an FAA requirement. But with that being said, you wouldn't get into an airplane and try to fly it without instruction. And so in the same fashion, I tell my student pilots that the two rules that we can't change are gravity is a law and the surface is hard. And Tracy from the FAA explained to me, you're just as dead if you fall from the paramotor as you are from the airplane. So we treat it as a very serious approach, very serious academic and physical approach. So running through the sequence, we have 5 modules that we're training in. The first module is our ground school. Then we progress from module 1 to 2 into ground handling. Then we go into simulator, launch and landing drills. Then we do energy state management exercises. Then taxi to launch exercises. And then begin to build on solo experience. We tell the students that your initial solo is an awesome experience. It's wonderful, but really it is just the start of your journey into aviation. It's just the beginning. And the USPPA, along with myself, I agree, require a minimum of 25 supervised flights, building on the student's skills and experience, trying different patterns, different elevations, different scenarios, if you will, engine out scenarios, spot landing scenarios, until the student has sufficient experience to replicate and to execute precisely time after time after time. And with that 25 flight ticket, what I explain to the students is that this opens the door for your exploration. Once you have your 25 flights under your belt, you can operate safely, consistently, persistently. Now you can begin to explore aviation. And so we don't by any means represent that 5 days of training and a few solo flights make you a pilot, not by any stretch. So in our ground school, in module 1 in ground school, it's about a day in length and duration. We do a detailed overview of all the operational aspects. We talk about weather and airspace. We do a history, cover the history and evolution of the sport. We also go into the equipment handling, storage, and maintenance. Just as you know, fixed wing operators that are single engine, you probably do a certain amount of maintenance yourself, and we teach our operators the same. We have to maintain our systems. There isn't a paramotor repair shop that I know of that you can go to. So we teach our students how to maintain the gear, how to do root cause basic diagnostic and repair, and network them in with good people that can help fix problems. We also cover video examples of proper and improper operation. And from there, we move into safety and communications protocol. So it's a full day. The first day of class is definitely a full packed day. Students take an academic online test that's approximately 50 questions, about 40 minutes in duration following that first class. So each level of PPG 1, 2, and 3 has a skill set that must be demonstrated consistently, along with an academic pass on the test. In our second module of ground handling, this really varies by individual. The younger students really rock this part of the class. The older guys, like myself, older guys and gals, we take longer to learn. We're slower in responding. So again, 12 to 20 hours before you can handle the glider, again, consistently, and you understand your limitations. As you can see here, it's 8 miles an hour total velocity, baseline, and gust. In our third module, we do the system break-in, and simulator drills. Most of these systems are coming to the student brand new, and the system requires an assembly, basic assembly. It's not terribly technical, but a couple of hours to assemble the system. And then, like any new engine, you have to break it in according to the manufacturer's specifications. And that typically takes a couple of hours. So once we complete the break-in, and we do that in a very safe fashion, we have the system strapped, double strapped against literally a telephone pole, pushing against the pole so that there is virtually no way it can get away and cause any damage to the operator. So in the simulator, what we do is we do drills on in and out of the system. We get all of the harness adjustment taken care of, because as you can see from Anais in the picture here, that she is seated in the harness. The harness has maybe 8 adjustments that adjust to Anais' legs, waist, chest, shoulders. And then there's another 4 or 6 adjustments where the harness adjusts to the frame, 8. And so between those combination of adjustments, we find the perfect comfort zone for the student, as well as the appropriate pitch. We can't change our propellers. We can't change the engine. We change our engine attitude, if you will, by the hang point on the system. And so our ideal hang point, as you see with Anais' illustration here, is between 5 and 15 degrees is what we're looking at. And she's probably about 10 in this photograph. So this is another, day, perhaps day and a half. In the launch and landing drills, we are simulating a run and a takeoff. And so we basically just step the student through that. Okay, you're in the air. Now we're going to get into the seat, and we just rehearse getting, because your landing gear are your feet. So you have to run this system, and we'll have a video that illustrates it. And then once it's in the air, 100 feet or so, you can get in the seat safely. And then when you're setting up for landing, you got to put your landing gear down, which is to get out of the seat, get into running position and put your hands up and make sure you're in a positive position for the landing. So we drill that over and over dozens of times, because when the student solos, it's literally their first flight is solo. I'm not in the plane with them. So it's very, very important that the basic maneuvers of launch and landing are so well rehearsed that they are instinctive. So when I say out of the seat running position or hop into the seat, the student doesn't have to think about it. They just execute. Module 4 is energy state management. And in Module 4, we're basically acclimating the pilot to the spool of the two-stroke engine. So for those of you that operate, our traditional four-stroke reciprocating on the small aircraft, you know that your power is there from the minute you roll. Even at 500, 1,000 RPM, you have power. With the two-stroke engines, they're like the motorcycles, jet skis, leaf blowers, etc. They have a spool time that the engine spools and begins to deliver power, typically in the 5,000-6,000 RPM range, unless it's a small engine like this 80 cc, and that tends to spool even higher. That tends to run 6,800 to even 10.5 is its power band. So we drill the students so that they understand how to feel the power, sense the power, and keep it in abeyance and bring it forward at the appropriate time. I don't know how to describe this other than just we're managing the state of energy and keeping the engine ready for immediate response, so that when the student is ready to go and commit and launch and rotate, that there's no spool time. And that spool time can be anywhere from a split second to maybe a second and a half on some of the larger systems. And that's enough for an error to occur. So we want to keep the student in tune with the engine. They learn how to use, in this power exercise, how to use the system to push them. We rotate into flight at between 8 and 10 miles per hour with the paramotor. And we can only run with all of this gear about 6. And so there's a point in your taxi where you have to relax and let the motor take over. But you have to keep moving. You have to keep pushing and running. But the motor is doing the actual work. And that'll be obvious here when I run the video. This session is literally just a quarter of a day. It's physically demanding. You've got the gear on your back. There's power involved. There is safety that we want to be attentive to. So we limit this to probably half a dozen or so drills. And then from there we go taxi to launch. Okay, and this is where we introduce the paramotor as the harness, and we have the no power. This is zero power, and it's all silent, and we're just using the paramotor as a kiting harness and getting the student accustomed to, okay, now I've learned how to kite. I've learned how to handle this thing. I've learned how to get in and out of the seat. I've learned how to manage the power. Now let's put it together with the weight and work into that. And so we're also acclimating to the pressurization of the system. When our paramotors hit a certain velocity, and I'm going to say it's probably about 5 miles an hour, 4 or 5 miles an hour, the wing actually locks and becomes rigid. And there's a feel to that where it's a positive feel of steering input. The wing is not wavering. It's not loose. It's rigid, like a fixed wing over you, and it will respond to your input from the brake toggles. So again, we're just drilling on this repetitively until the student has a level of proficiency and a level of confidence in order to move to the next step. So acclimating to pre and post rotation lift. And with that, I'm going to run a little video here, guys.
Ready? Okay, in 3, 2, 1, let's move out. Run, run, run. Wings coming up. Let off. Get off the A's and just run. Just run. Steer it. There you go, Anais. Faster. Right brake, step left. Keep moving forward. Right brake, step left. Keep moving forward. Follow my voice. There you go. There you go. Right brake, step left. You want to lock lock that into your memory. Good, 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 good. Very good.
No,
Good, good.
I
Okay.
stopped because I got tired.
Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna grab the plate.
Yep.
This is the hardest part from you right here.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Let's move it out. Wings coming up. Step under it. Step under it. There you go. Now come towards me. Come towards me. Come towards me. Start giving me a little bit of power. You're good. Give me power. Stand up straight. Lean back. Lean back. Don't look at me. Look at the horizon. Look at the horizon. Full power. Full power. Full power. All right. Okay. Keep on the power. Park your right brake. Let's get in the seat. Stay on the power. Pull your knees up. All right, dude. Give me a kick if you're in good. Are you in the seat comfortable? Okay, if you're having a good time, I want to hear something from you, like a hoot. That's it, that's it. Okay, let's climb out. Go ahead and roll power. And give me left brake. Just a touch, just a touch. Get you closer. Touch your power. All right, go ahead and kill it. Hands up, hands up. Flare, flare. Hold the flare once you're in it. There you go. Very good. See if you can run it to the runway. You got the energy. Can you do it? Now, while you're doing that, stand up straight. Okay, give me power. Power. You want to launch again? Go ahead. It's all you. Full power. Stand up straight. Stand up straight. Give me brakes. There you go. That's it. That's it. Good job. Out of the seat, running position. Beautiful, beautiful. Hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up. Just let it fly. Let it fly. Pressure, flare. There you go. Stay in the flare. Good girl. There you go. Go ahead and pirouette and drop it. You got a dry wing to go home. You don't have to let it out to dry when you get back. There you go. What do you think?
That was amazing.
You like touch and go?
Loved it. Thank you so
You
much.
go, young lady.
Okay, so that was Anais Pantaleone from the Bloomsburg area. And that was unknown to us. That was Anais' 25th birthday. She didn't tell us until after she had soloed that it was her 25th birthday. So Anais, I hope you're on the call, and thank you for being a great student and a great ambassador for the sport. So for those of you that are accustomed to traditional work breakdown structure, this is a WBS. It's sorted by time. It doesn't sort by the sequence. But as you can see, there's the breakdown. The ground school waivers, I put it 6 hours. The glider handling, the bottom line, I put 2 days. When you add it all up, from my perspective as the instructor, I put about 50 hours into each student, and the students will put that 50 plus probably another 20 or 30 on their own. So, you're looking at, probably 60, 80 hours of cumulative effort before you're doing your first solo. So let's talk a little bit about weather considerations. Power paragliding is most enjoyable in light to nil wind. Gust and thermal activity are our enemies. Early morning and late evening are most enjoyable. This is a good example of some of the weather that comes across the field out there at November 71, as is this. I mean, these are literally taken in the same week, one with a storm front moving through and another in the aftermath. So again, we're right. We are flying lightweight aircraft. We can fly in safely in up to probably 15 miles an hour, but it's not comfortable. The most comfortable and pleasant flying conditions for us are 0 wind. Unfortunately, that makes for the most difficult launches because a little bit of wind in the face makes that glider come up easy. When the wind is non-existent, you have to make 100% of the wind yourself by running and applying the power at the split second, at the right split second. And once you're up and running, it's literally like carving through butter. You can fly with your hands on the input and not feel anything. The stick is not moving at all. It's just pure butter. Weather considerations, bad. Weather considerations, good. So as we move on into safety considerations, okay, launch and land into the wind, avoid the prop. This is really, really key. So surprised as I travel across the country, go to fly-ins, different gatherings and so forth, and see pilots not observing safe protocol with their propeller. Two ways to start the system, or two safety ways to start the system. One is on your back, and the throttle's in your hand. So there's no way that can get away from you. You know, the last thing you do before you start it is you check the throttle return and ensure that you do not have a WOT, or wide open throttle condition. Start on your back or lock it on a stand and start it on a stand. Those are the two safe ways. A third way that you can start it safely is by strapping the prop and locking the throttle open. So you just don't even have it in your hand. You've cleared it. It's open. The prop is strapped with a nylon strap, and all you do is just start the engine to verify that it will start. But you don't put any power on it. Start on stand or back, and then carry reserve chute. So if you are squeamish at all, turn away, because I'm going to show a photograph that's used with permission from one of my students, Brian. And Brian was an airborne ranger, and he bought this air conception system, and he had got a couple of solos on it, and he was at the field attempting to pull start it, and he was kneeling on the throttle, and he pulled it 16 times, as I recall, and on the 17th time it came to life full power, and he put his arm up to stop it, and it walked right through the cage, and the prop just walked right up his arm. So this is after the surgery. You have the photographs of the ER, and trust me, I wouldn't show those on a forum like this. But and Brian came to me 2 years after this and was like, "Dude, I did this to myself, and I realized it was my mistake, and now I'm ready to fly." And so we got Brian flying again, and I don't know if Brian, if you're on the call or not, but he's an awesome success story and an overcomer. So congratulations to Brian. This is another pilot that visited us from Maine, who will remain unnamed, and did not want to wait for an escorted flight. Left the airfield with the admonition, specifically, watch the cornfields. You will not always see the lines. 2 hours after the guy left, I get a text. The sun had just set. I'm in a cornfield. I don't know where I am. Can you come to this pen? And the next day, this is what was left. He left it, went home to Maine. He was fine. He hit the power lines with his chest. The wing went over, dropped him to the ground, and he woke up laying on the ground, hanging from a 100 kV power line. When PPL came out the next day to undo this damage, they asked, what morgue did they take the pilot to? Because he's certainly dead after hitting this line. Fortunately, he got up and walked away from it. So safety considerations continued. This is a graphic of November 71, and it's a bit of an eye chart, but if you study it for a moment, you'll see on the right side, we have our PPG pattern, and that is at equal or under 200 feet AGL. And you can see from the PPG LZ indicator that we have a clear west, east, and north launch, and the parameters between. So west, northwest, east, northeast, we can launch. And we can do a little bit of southwest and southeast. But as you can see, we've got the farms there, and we've got the FBO due south. So we tend to avoid south launches altogether for student pilots. for the PPG-2 and advancing pilots, they can move down closer to the runway and launch towards the FBO and be up and turned and out of there before they're a third of the way up the field. We also emphasize what not to overfly. So we have neighbors at the airfield that we want to be sensitive to, and again, avoid at all costs. So now the detail of the eye chart, and this was developed in cooperation over a couple of years in working with the leadership at the Maytown Sport Parachute Club. And so, traditionally, you walk into an area unknown and you bring a paramotor. Probably you're not going to be well received right off the bat. This is a sport where we've had a number of pilots, errant pilots. I would say not necessarily sully the reputation, but have enough flexibility in their flying skills and demonstration that it scares people. And we have had incursions with aircraft, not with our group, but in the sport. And as was mentioned at the top of the call, we've had a handful of deaths. I mean, I probably know of 6 or 8 in just the last few years. So what we found with working in any aviation airspace is that establishing a thorough protocol, and adherence to that protocol, revisiting the protocol, tweaking and tuning it as conditions and situations warrant. That's what makes this work for us. So we've agreed with the parachute club. They own the field while they're present. So we have to be super, super attentive and sensitive to their operation. So basically, in a nutshell, you can read the detail. I'm not going to step through it, but we monitor CTAF. We are communicative with the pilots. We do not inflate the gliders like from the slide where Anais is running and kiting with the glider. We do not perform that drill while planes are on the runway or taxiing or jumpers are coming out of the airplane. We don't want to create any visual on the field that is distracting to approaching or departing pilots or jumpers. So, the problems that I hear as I, advocate across, airports where PPGs have been challenged, we don't see this being observed. We don't see the professionalism that you would expect from a fixed wing pilot of coming in with a plan, with communications, with navigation gear, and experience, right? When you present those skills to an airport, and again, you do so politely and professionally, I haven't been denied yet, guys. And so, maybe because I'm an old guy and not in my 20s, but I go and I sit down and talk with the managers, and I take these cards with the protocol that you see. It's a no-brainer. They see that you're safe. They see that you're equipped. I have videos I can show them, and it's really a no-brainer. So in summary, our operations are well-trained pilots choose flying conditions accordingly. And here we are, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us out here para-waiting for the fog to lift. We don't overfly people or gatherings, no matter how cool it is or how much fun it might be. We don't do that. We demonstrate safe flight habits and procedures. We launch and land with precision. That was one of the first things. I don't know if Ben Travis is on the phone, the owner of N71. First day I met him, he asked me, "Can you operate this with precision?" And I explained to him on the field. I said, "I can launch right here and land right in this pea gravel pit." And he said, "Show me." He's a great guy. He's like, "Just show me what you can do." I got up and I flew that pattern and came in and landed in the pit. And he goes, "Okay, you're good to fly." We always fly within our limitations. So no craziness, right? No acrobatics. We're not turning the glider upside down. We're not going sideways, and we're not doing things that make the people on the ground fear for our lives. We don't disturb wildlife. or landowners. Okay, I want to stop on this one for a second. There was a guy out west that put up a YouTube video of him kicking an owl, chasing an owl, and kicking it in flight, and commenting on that. And he ended up in federal court, and he was convicted. So that sort of behavior, we are so fortunate to see the wildlife we see. We experience bald eagles. We experience all sort of four-legged deer, fox, everything that crawls on the ground, we see it. But as soon as we see it, we turn away, right? We don't chase anything. That's just not allowed. And we stay away from all dwellings. We don't fly over farm buildings. We don't fly over livestock. And obviously we don't fly over people. Totally avoid horses. Anything where there's equine, we stay away from the horses. So our home stretching it here, FAR 103 considerations. Guys, I studied this and I wanted to bring up the entire 103 and just go through it. But there's so much detail, and we could spend 2 hours on FAR 103. But in a nutshell, it's from 1982, single occupant, equal to or less than 254 pounds, equal to or less than 5 gallons of fuel. Recreational sport purposes. That means we can't pull banners. We can't do any advertising. We can't collect revenue for flying a paramotor. From an inspection requirements, certification, registration, sorry about the end there, the FAA, they may inspect, but it's not required. So if one of the guys from Harrisburg comes out and says, hey, I want to go through your paramotors, we're going to put them out there on the line for them and say, please tell us what we need. Tell us what you think. These are not certified aircraft, and registration is not a requirement. No hazardous activities. All right, nothing dropped. You don't go out and fly and drop smoke grenades. Or I saw one guy dropped a Pabst Blue Ribbon under a little parachute to his brother down on the ice in Wisconsin. And that thing hit right by his brother's foot and just blew up. Daylight operations only. Class G airspace. We can extend 30 minutes prior to sunrise and 30 minutes after sunset if we have a strobe with 3-mile visibility. And I'm going to put a plug in for my buddy Chip Hunter here, Hunter Strobes. He makes a great strobe that's visible for 3 miles, and it's like $60-70, really easy. We have no right of way whatsoever. So again, as you heard me talk about the departing or arriving aircraft, or the jumpers coming out of the sky, or the hot air balloon, or the fill in the blank, we have no right of way. We have no operations over congested areas. We have to maintain visual reference to the surface at 1 mile clear of clouds, so we can't be going flying into the clouds. Confined to Class G, excluding all surface Class E without prior permission. And as you guys know, with the towers, if you are knowledgeable, professional, and competent, you can oftentimes request and receive permission to do things that are normally excluded. So we yield to all aircraft. And that will take us to, okay, put a slide together here for average year one investment. Everybody wants to know, what does it cost to get into this? So I tell folks to figure like you're going out and buying a Harley. Figure it's like a road bike, or if you were on the dirt bike side, that you were buying like a Honda 250, a trailer, and all the gear that goes with that, the body armor, the helmet, the radios, the GPS, and so forth. So as you can see, the total comes up 13 to 15K. It really varies by individual. An example I would give you is, we have some pilots over in Amish guys over in Leola, and where the guys over at Donegal Springs, we wear aviation helmets, we carry Yaesu transceivers, and we carry GPSs and strobes and all that. So our accessory package is right about $1,000. And that's what makes us safe flying in this valley over here. But the guys over in Leola, they and Burdenhand, they fly with skateboard helmets, and I think a couple of them might fly with shooter plugs. Right, they'll put shooter earplugs in their ears, but they don't talk to each other, and so they don't require air-to-air comms. They don't require a carbon fiber helmet. And, they're staying so close to the farm, they don't need a GPS. So really, it just varies by your profile. They don't need flotation. They're not flying over the river. And they've all got their tools, so they don't need to buy tools. Give you an idea, though, of what the investment looks like. So how does one engage? You can go to the usppa.org, and you can see all of the instructors and the schools are out there. AirX PPG is a sanctioned school of USPPA. So one route you can go is via dedicated schools. And the dedicated schools are really great in that they're comprehensive, all-inclusive, and they're concurrent. So if you're fortunate to hit a good period where the weather holds in 7 to 10 days, you can complete the training program and knock out your 25 flights. Okay, but that is the exception. That is really the exception. Dedicated schools are Aviator down in Florida, Carolina PPG up in North Carolina, Midwest PPG, and of course our friends out on the West Coast, Blackhawk Paramotor. And again, these are great organizations that are super professional and very well equipped. The challenge with this model is if you're traveling to the school, and let's say you travel half a day or a day to the school, and let's say that you have a weather event that disrupts your training and you have to go home, or let's say that you only get one out of your 25 flights done, well, you have to go back. You have to return in order to continue your training. Whereas if you're working with an individual instructor, it's a custom. It's a custom one-on-one approach. And I've done both. I've worked my first year in the business with a partnership in North Carolina, and we had an airport that we owned and operated, one of the partners owned, and we had a full fleet of aircraft, and we were running training classes back to back, week in, week out, and we were just killing ourselves. And the individuals, they were just worn out after, camping out in North Carolina for a week. So what I found, I broke off from the partnership and just started a focused one-on-one approach here in Pennsylvania. And if I need additional resources, Chip and Eric are there to help me. They're both awesome instructors. But I like the one-on-one approach because most of our customers are working professionals or business owners, law enforcement, pilots, commercial pilots, and they're busy. So they want to train when they want to train. And that's okay with me, right? We will make the schedule work for your availability. The challenge with that is when you're remote, like you're down in Maryland and you want to come up here and train, and we're trying to get your schedule and the weather together. So you have to keep those things in mind when training. So it makes summer and fall the best time for training.
Joe, if you want to take a few moments, share your closing thoughts, then I'll finish up with a couple of slides.
Yeah, as we started the presentation, you guys had a video from EAA from 2019, I believe it was. Is that right?
2021.
2021.
Year before last, yes.
So 2019 was the first time I went out and I presented at EAA in the FAA tower, which is, as you guys know, the only air-conditioned spot on the field. So it's really nice. But I gave a similar presentation a couple of years ago at EAA, as well as we've done these in public-facing venues here, both webinars and at airports. So those of you that are listening that want to do something like this in your area, I'd be happy to provide you with presentation materials and or coaching. And if you wanted this presentation delivered, by yours truly, I'd be happy to do that as well.
Thanks again, Joe. Much appreciated. Well done.
All right. Thank you, guys.
For those of you familiar with the Wings program, you can sign off now. And thank you for viewing the presentation. Your Wings credit will be issued. If you're new to Wings and want to hear a little bit more about it, I just have a couple slides. It won't take long. We'll be off in a couple of minutes here. When I introduced Joe, I said he was an FAA safety team rep, meaning he is interested in promoting safety as he did today. He donates his time and talents freely on behalf of the FAST team. And in that interest of safety, I'm going to play a short video here explaining what the Wings program is all about.
Hi, I'm Phil Dixon, FAA Safety Team Program Manager at Olive Branch Airport in Olive Branch, Mississippi. And you're watching 57 Seconds to Safer Flying. If you're an airline pilot, you know about the FAA's requirements for proficiency, simulators every few months. For the general aviation pilot, you're current with a flight review and landings every 90 days. But are you as proficient as the airline pilots? Of course you're not. That's where the Wings program at FAAsafety.gov comes in. The flight instructor you choose flies with you, offering critique and advice to sharpen you up. Adding in attendance at a local safety seminar or online at a Wings webinar or online course at FAAsafety.gov rounds out your ongoing proficiency training. Pilots who have recently added a phase of Wings to their profile are proven statistically to be safer pilots, and they've covered their flight review requirements in doing so. Remember, we want our friends and family members to feel safe and to be safe with us at the yoke. Consider adding the Wings program to your personal training regimen. You've probably heard FAST Team program managers such as myself talk about the Wings program before. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because we really believe in the program. We believe that if we can get most general aviation pilots active in the Wings program, we'll have safer skies, we'll have fewer accidents, and there will be more lives saved. Getting involved in the Wings program is easy. You go to FAAsafety.gov and register. Then you go to the My Wings tab and enroll in the Wings program. We really feel like you would be a safer pilot if you enroll in the Wings program and actually learn the program and use the program. So why don't you give it a try at FAAsafety.gov today. For the FAA Safety Team, I'm Phil Dixon.
Thanks, Phil. How do you enter? You complete a phase of Wings, go to FAAsafety.gov. This is the website. Click on pilots. You'll see a box that appears next to team members down the bottom. It'll appear in this section here. Click on it, fill in your information, your name, address, email, etc., and you're enrolled. FAAsafety.gov, pilots, team rewards. We hope you enjoyed tonight's presentation. Introduction.
Should I throw a closing comment? I don't know
it.
how many attendees are members of the FAST team. Do you know?
How many attendees today are members of the FAST team? I don't know.
So just in an open-ended comment, I would say, join if you want to fly PPG and you want to fly from controlled or non-towered airports. Join the FAST team, because the FAST team will teach you how to engage with these folks in a very professional, positive way that will pretty much guarantee your acceptance. So join the FAST team. It's a great place to be.
Great plug. You know, you're also going to get emails about presentations that we're putting on. You heard me talk about an upcoming presentation on airspace. We have one coming up on aircraft or airport signs and markings, all good information. And hey, it's aviation related. Who could not love it? You know, if you have a topic or suggestion for a future webinar, drop me a line. My email is going to be on the next slide. On behalf of myself, Gary Martin, and Joe Hall, thanks for joining us tonight. Be well,
Thanks,
fly
Gary.
safe, have a wonderful evening. Check for TFRs before you launch. And I have Joe's contact information and my contact information right here.
There you go.
We'll leave it up for a little bit and we'll shut it down. That's awesome that we had so many people on tonight. So many people are interested.
Great
in
level of
ultralights.
engagement. Great questions. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Awesome questions. Donegal Springs, May 18th for another presentation. That's all, folks.
Cool.
See ya.